Hi, everyone. Welcome to Create It and Crush It. I'm so happy to have you guys here today for our fifth masterclass. We have Mariana here today, and it was actually her birthday yesterday. I'm terrible because I thought it was today. I was going to wear a birthday hat. I was like super excited about it. And then I was like, oh my God, it was the day before.
It's okay.
So, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us the day after your birthday. It's a big birthday for you too, right?
Yes, 30. Oh my gosh.
Crazy. So thank you so much for coming today, for sharing your wisdom with us on your birthday.
Thanks. And we have Gabriella. She's always around.
Thank you for bringing Gabriella. I love that you are so open about that too. Not open, I don't know if that's not the right word, but I love that you're just so like, I'm going to do my business anyway, right? Like, I think a lot of moms feel like, oh, I would have to like get a sitter or I'd have to like do this. And you're like, that's who I am. Like, that's how I run my business. And I thank you for being like so available to show us that.
Thank you.
All right. So our masterclass today that Mariana is teaching is on the 5 steps to understanding your ideal client. Mariana is like really the perfect person to teach this because she's a business coach that frees moms from their 9-to-5 jobs, and she helps them create more profitable businesses online through like marketing strategy, client attraction instead of client chasing, helping them to avoid the tech overwhelm and helping them just really see that like as a mom working from home, trying to get out of the 9-to-5, you can do all of the things you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So she's the perfect person to teach our masterclass because she has spent a lot of time understanding her ideal client, right? She has helped her clients do the same thing. So today she's going to teach us that. But first, I just like to ask everybody at the beginning to kind of like just talk for a minute about how community and support has helped you grow your business, because ultimately that's why I started Create It and Crush It, because I really think that we all have something unique and special to share. And if we were like more available to share that with each other, we could all be the growing together, be the rising tide that lifts all boats. So if you just want to like share with us for a moment how that has helped you in your business, then we'll let you dive right into your content.
Yeah, I think that community has been everything in my business. I think if I didn't have the online communities, I wouldn't even be in business. And I love to think about business as like just really connecting with people and building relationships. So, and what you've showed me, I always thought like I had to reach out to like the highest up people. Like I thought I had to call Shalene Johnson and be like,
get her on the phone.
Yeah, and be like, hey, let's hang out. And then you showed me that like collaboration could be with like my peers and like you said, like raise each other up. And so that's how we've done. I've gotten to do a lot of little collaborative projects with people, and it's been really fun. And in the mom community, kind of facilitate that as well.
I love that. Yeah, especially because this business changes so quickly, right? So like, you know, the person that you like think, you know, wasn't like high level today, it will be tomorrow or whatever it is. So like we want to be like really available to network with anyone or collaborate with anyone that like wants to do great work in the world, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And tell me, like, when you say like you don't think this business would exist without that, like what does that mean for you? Because it's so important for you to have that community, being like a stay-at-home like entrepreneur, or like what is that like piece of it for you?
I think it's multiple things. It does like keep my sanity, right? Like,
yeah.
In terms of like not feeling so overwhelmed because I have peers who are helping me, and other moms that are also going through the same things that I am. So I don't feel as alone. And I think too, like, honestly, we think of online businesses online when really we forget that it's still people, and without people, you can't sell to anybody. So, the community literally is what, you know, is how you generate an income. Without that, you can't make money, right? Like you still need people.
That's
even
so
though it's
true.
online.
Yeah, like it can feel so easy to like detach from it or be like, oh, well, I work from home by myself online. And it's like, but it's still like all about the relationship, like whether that looks like this, like what we're doing here, or whether it looks like, you know, being in person with somebody. It's the same stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. All right, cool. So I will let you dive right in. I will ask you a ton of questions throughout it. Most of our viewers are replay viewers. So I just tried to, well, I guess I picked a bad time, first of all. But second of all, I just try to ask you the questions that I personally have or that I think they would have. So I'll just kind of jump in with you along the way, ask you what I think our audience might be thinking, and we'll go from there, okay?
Okay, awesome.
Cool.
So do you want me to share my story a little bit or like?
Yes. Sorry. I'm so terrible at this. Because I know you guys, right? Everybody I'm having on here, I know really well. So I'm like, all right, let's just get started. But yes, for everyone that doesn't know you, Mariana, please share your story.
Okay, so I started off in January 2015 as a health coach, and I loved it. I had recently lost a ton of weight, and I was like, I'm also a nurse, so I was like, I can help people to lose weight. And so that's how I started. Oh man, Gabriella has stuff to say about that.
She's like, I got some points here.
So I started in health coaching, and then I got pregnant, and I continued to just grow my business regardless of being pregnant. It was kind of awkward because I was gaining weight and showing people how to lose weight, but I just continued. And then Gabriella was born at only 28 weeks. So she was 2 pounds when she was born. She was teeny tiny. And it was really a miracle that she lived. She was in the ICU for over 2 months and just had a lot of complications and was on a breathing monitor when she came home. It was a rough time. And so at that moment, I had been making it work, generating some income while working from home as a health coach. And I was like, I think that I need to help other people do this. Like, it just kind of dawned on me that the fact that I was juggling this craziness was for a reason. And so I started doing health business coaching for free at first, and then eventually I spent about 2 months doing market research, which is part of what I'm going to talk about today. And then I launched my business, and by the time I launched my business, I did have people reaching out to me asking how they could work with me. And it was really cool because of my messaging was so on point. I had people from Australia, and I live in South Texas, asking how they could work with me. And that felt really good. And it was like, okay, what I'm doing is working. And that was really just confirmation and, you know, validation. So,
yeah. And like one of the things that's sticking out for me, I mean, obviously an amazing story, but you know, is twofold. Is like, one, you coached for free. I did that too. And I think that makes such a difference. Like, I think, you know, some people get into this industry and are just like, where's my first 5 clients? And they're not available to put in the work. Plus, you did 2 months of market research. Same thing, right? Like, I'm not just going to come out of the gate and be like, this is exactly who I help. I haven't coached a single human, but like, I know this is who I help. You know, it's like that Mark Manson article I shared recently, which was called Shut Up and Be Patient. So anyway, like, you have built a great business, but you made sure that you had like foundational pieces in place and you put the work in to get there, right?
yeah. And of course, like, none of that was without struggle and without like failing forward, right? Like, my first webinar had like 5 people. I think you were one of them.
I remember that.
But, you know, like,
and you were like, continued. What, your slide wasn't working or something. Yes, it was just crazy.
I was like just showered, and then I showed up on video. But, you know, like, all of that is part of the growing pains. Like, that's just part of starting that I think people don't ever really talk about, but everyone goes through it. Everyone goes through it.
And I love that you're like putting words to that. Like, I had 5 people. I had wet hair. I had slides that didn't work. And it would have been really easy for you to be like, oh, well, all my market research forget it, like whatever, like this is like, I can't do this, right? Like that's where a lot of people fall off the entrepreneurial bandwagon, is when they have that like first thing where they're like, I just feel like I fell on my face a little bit, right? But like that leverage, you learned so much from that. So thank you for sharing that, because I know we have all had those moments where you're just like, wow.
Yes.
But it's like, are you able to get past that? So yes, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And for me, it was like such a bigger mission than me. And that's what allowed me to move past that. I was just like, this is about helping moms. It's not about me looking like a hot mess with my hair, right? Like, so.
And you need to like to help moms, like you're showing them like you can still do this with that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's pretty much how I show up. Yeah, that's how I show up a lot of the time, because my brand is not like totally polished. That's just not me in real life right now. I mean, like 5 years ago before kids, yes, for sure. But that's just not my reality anymore.
Mm-hmm. But like it doesn't stop you, which is very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us, well, you'll tell us at the end how people can get in touch with you, but I guess go ahead and tell us like how, so that 2 months of market research, the market research you continue to do, because I know you poll your community a ton, like what does that look like, and how does that help you identify your ideal client?
So for people that aren't sure, like, first of all, like where to even start with market research or with the business idea, like I always start with people like kind of doing like this Venn diagram, like what are you passionate about, and then what are your skills, and like how can you help people. And what are your skills is not necessarily mean like, okay, well, if I did XYZ, like I was a nurse in corporate and I work like ICU, organ transplant, and case management, like all really difficult careers, none of which really have anything to do with business coaching, but there's a lot of skills that do. And they're like time management, they're like being organized and systematic, right? So like those are the things that you're looking for when you're looking to start this business. It's not exactly what you have experience with, but what that experience means, the skills, right? The skills.
Definitely.
So that's the first part. And then that's where you can start to do market research. Like wherever those kind of intersect, you'll probably have a few different things. And then from there you can start, and market research is really just like kind of looking at what is out there already, how your offer is going to fit in, and what are the preferences of the buyers. So like that's how I really started looking at things.
So for the diagram, tell us again. So you're doing skills and
what you're passionate about. Oh, you're not.
Babies, dogs, whatever, right? Like that's what you got to do. So skills, passions, where do they intersect? And then how do you jump off from that point, right?
Yeah, so like all of those intersections, you might have a handful of different ideas from that. And from there, you would study the markets of each of those and see how your offer can uniquely fit in there.
I love that, because I think sometimes when people hear the term market research, they're just like, oh, I guess I just like go out and ask people what they want. And then they try to make themselves fit that. They don't always start with like, what are my skills and strengths? What am I passionate about? And then how do I ask people about that? Like you're giving them a good foundational place to start their research, which is really smart.
Yeah, and also I think it has to be passion driven, because if you're not really feeling it, but you're really good at it, that's still not really going to get you. It's only going to get you so far when you have this, like I said, that crazy webinar or whatever you might struggle with. So then when you go out, you really just start with researching basic, right? Like Google, Amazon, kind of look at what's there in the directories and the search engines. iTunes, you can search for podcasts. There's a site called Alltop, and it rates like the highest blogs. You can look at forums, and kind of the Facebook groups is awesome for this too. Like, what are people asking a lot of questions about? What are they struggling with? What are their problems? And so that's kind of how you start. I mean, basically, you're trying to just solve a problem. You want your business to solve a problem for a specific person.
And you want to like already have some of those solutions, right? Like you want to know that like you don't have to find all new solutions. You can start from like the right place and solve with like the solutions you are like uniquely able to offer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I first launched my business, I was focusing on time management and productivity because that's what I knew as a nurse. Like I had to do head to toe assessments on all my patients every hour. So like that requires a certain level of organization, systematizing, and just like, you know, doing. So that's where I started. I didn't know everything about business and online marketing, but I had some idea from my first business as a health coach. But honestly, my expertise is still time management, right? So as the other things have strengthened, I've obviously like branched out and, you know, kind of changed my expertise as well. But that's also another part of like when you're starting out, don't be married to your topic. Like you can totally shift as you go along.
Yeah, there's like such a fine line, right? Between like, don't be married to it, which stops a lot of people, right? Because they're like, well, I don't know if I want to do this for like the rest of my whole life. And you're like, you don't have to. That's what's cool about being an entrepreneur, right? The other end of the spectrum being like, I can't commit for even 90 days to one thing, right? Which is when you start to see results. So I think that's a great point, is like, it's not like never or forever. It's like somewhere in between, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I love how you said that, like, you know, just commit to something for 90 days because that's when you will start to see the momentum going. It's not, I mean, don't be like, okay, well, I've done it for 2 weeks. It's not working.
Yeah.
So
we've all been there, right? Or we've all had clients that have been there where they're like, well, I've tried this for 2 weeks and I didn't get results. And you're like, right. Because that's not how life or business typically works. So cool. You're on the right track, right? All right. So recap for me so far. So we're doing like our Venn diagram. We're looking at our skills, our passions, where they intersect, and then we're starting to do research on it, right?
Yeah. And just basically online research at first. And so that's where I would start. And then when you get like a good foundation of online research, then you can go ahead and start interviewing people. This is where you bring people in. Now, I have a quote that I gathered when I did this one blog post when I was like talking about this. And I thought, the reason that I don't agree with like just doing a survey is because I think people are extremely way more complex than a survey. And so for you to encapsulate everything about a person in a survey, it's just not going to happen. So for me, if you want to do a survey, like to get more data, and if you're really data driven, go ahead and do a survey, but still pick a few of those people who are like the people you want to work with based on the survey and interview them in real life. And it could be phone or, you know, in person. And so when I did this, I interviewed 50 people. That's why it took me so long.
That's why it took her 2 months.
Yeah. So you don't have to go to that extreme. But a lot of those people will be like your first few customers. So that's another pro.
Because you had a real conversation, right? Not because they filled out a survey.
Exactly. And, you know, you build more of a relationship with them, right? So it's definitely a good opportunity for you to start to feel that out and see like what are the qualities of that person that is ideal for you.
So what are like some questions you suggest or typically ask, or does it just totally depend?
Hold on a second.
No problem.
Honey, I'm in the middle of an interview. Please. I don't know where your control is. It's right there. Okay.
Doesn't he know we're talking ideal
it.
clients? I mean, come on.
The control. It's so
I mean,
important.
you gotta have that.
My 2-year-old. Yeah, my 2-year-old is playing with it, so who knows where that is. Okay, so yes, so some questions that I would recommend is to start with, okay, you want to understand their hopes, fears, and dreams. So really like just prefacing it with, what are you gonna do, right? Because you can't just be like, what are your problems?
Yes.
And then they're gonna be like coming out of left field, right? So you want to kind of,
it's like going to be whatever's on their mind at that moment or something. It's not going to be like a true reflection.
Yeah. So you want to kind of prime them and be like, okay, I'm thinking of, starting off as, let's say you want to do business coaching. I want to start off as a business coach. What are you struggling with in your business?
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely one of them, is like, what is your biggest problem, frustration, that kind of thing. And then really listening. I think that's probably the hardest part. Listening and just having a real conversation and kind of getting as much depth as you can about that. And then from there, you want to talk about what are their dreams, like what are they hoping to do in the next year or 2 years, like what are their goals, why is that important to them. And again, listening. I have my clients record these calls, and that way I think a second listen, you get to hear a lot more information that you missed the first time because you were like worried, right?
What's my next question? That's not at all what I wanted to like hear, right? Sometimes that's
Yeah. So the second one is like, see where they want to go, what they ultimately want, and what is blocking them. What are their fears? So you really focus on hopes, fears, and dreams. And so those are the main questions. And then I think too, like
your topic.
Yeah, related to your topic. Mm-hmm. And for some people, I've heard of people asking if they would buy something like that. And I don't really recommend that. Like, not asking about whether they would buy or how much, because when I did it, I was working with a different coach, not Lacey, and she recommended that I ask them how much they would pay. And I literally had people go from tell me like $30. I had a girl tell me $1,500. Like, that's kind of a wide range. So I think, just kind of gathering that information through your online search is much smarter, and / what you feel really good about. I think pricing is something you have to feel incredibly good about before you commit.
I totally agree with you on this, because I mean, like, I liken it to, like, say, a pair of jeans, right? Like, if somebody asked me, like, right this moment, like, how much did you pay for a pair of jeans? I'd be like, I don't know, like $50, right? But, like, if I look really skinny in them and they make my butt look really good, like, I'm very available to go up from there, right? Like, I might then be like, well, I would pay $150 for these, right? Or whatever it is. But there's, like, this weird thing that we do in our brains, which is, like we change the value. So when you're thinking value, jeans, right, 50. When I'm thinking like butt looking good, skinny, 150, right? So it's kind of like the same thing with coaching. Like, well, I don't know you that well yet. Like, I haven't worked with you. So maybe 30, like you said, versus like, you're helping me grow my entire business. I'm getting clients, etc. 1,500. Like, there's such a difference there.
Yes. Exactly.
So what did that do for you at the time? Probably mess with your head, right?
Big time mess with my head.
Because you were like, well, do I split the difference? Like, So I agree with you. I love that you're like, leave that question out. Like, figure that out through your research, through what feels good, maybe with a coach, whatever. But like, that's off the table for these interviews.
Yeah, and I think like actually validating with your first client instead of validating through a question, because anybody can say they're going to buy, but until they put money where their mouth is, you're kind of like still in this, I don't know if this is a validated idea.
Definitely. Like they're not signing a contract, they're just throwing a number out. So yes, that's such a good point. Like would that person that told you 1,500 have paid you 1,500? That's a good question, right?
Right.
Very cool. I love that. Really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, so that is essentially the market research. Okay, so then the next phase is you want to do data analysis. So you want to kind of gather all of the data that you've collected from online, from your interviews, and look at it very objectively. I think that this is another part that can be very hard because you are talking about your passion here.
Yes. And right?
Yes. And how you're going to present yourself. And so this is where it becomes really helpful to work with a coach to like give you an unbiased outsider's opinion. And I always tell the story of the man in the desert. It's like, let's say you ran into this man out in the middle of the desert. It's super hot, like 100 degrees. And you see him and you're like, okay, what do you need? And they say, I just need water, right? So that's your ideal clients telling you that they need something, right? And they just told you in this interview.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're thinking, okay, I'll get you water, but what you really need is like a helicopter. We need EMS. Like we need you out of the desert. We need you under some shade and probably ER, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's kind of where this whole market research, where people get lost in this part, because they get told all of this information from their ideal clients, which really it's excellent information, but you need to really get to the meat of where the struggle really is. And it took me a long time to figure this part out, even in my business. And so, you know, it's never going to be 100%, right? And as your ideal client shifts, right, because you get to work with a few people and you're like getting experience, that's when you really get to understand this part even more.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of like the making sure you know what they want, but that you're also like available to give them what they need, right?
Yeah. And you, of course, like as the expert, knowing what they actually need, but selling them on what they want,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not going to pay you for what they need because they don't know they need it.
Right. So like for the desert example, like I'm very available to pay for water right now. Once I get that, then maybe I'll realize I need a helicopter and all the other things, right?
Yes.
But like we have to get that first thing taken care of first. So do you like recommend that people almost like prioritize like what is like most important to their ideal client working backwards, or like how do you deal with that data?
Yeah, I think I deal with it by creating like just a magnetic message. And so getting a message that incorporates bits of both.
Okay.
Because you're going to meet people at different phases, and they might still be your ideal client. Like at the beginning, they're going to just think they need water. And you might be getting to the point where you're growing your community, you're educating them, and then they are really knowing that they need EMS, right? Like,
Yeah.
So with your magnetic message, incorporating elements of all of those things.
Of the like very, very immediate present pain point, but like where we could take you to, right? So like for health coaching, that might be like losing 5 pounds, right? But like the rest of that is like long-term health.
Life. Yeah.
Actually feeling good in your body, all the other things, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the question is like, I know a lot of people talk about how people only buy off of immediate pain points, right? So it's like you're probably hitting that first, but you're making sure they know there's more to it than that is kind of what you're saying. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And that's how to create your magnetic message around that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Hang on
No
one
problem.
second. She wanted a toy.
Okay, so we looked at our skills, passions, skills, passions, combined them, right? We did some research, like internet research on that, right? Then we did some actual like client-based research, potential client-based research. We're definitely staying away from certain questions. We're figuring out their hopes, fears, and dreams. Then we're crafting a magnetic message around that. Talk to me more about that.
So for the magnetic message, it's basically encapsulating what you do into one sentence. And so I use the format of I help, and then X is like your ideal client, right? So like I help mom entrepreneurs, and then you do benefit, 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 like literally just talking about the benefits of what you help them with. And so that's kind of what I always do with my brand new clients. Like that's where we pretty much start, because I feel like people have a really hard time describing what they do. This is like a chronic problem. And so without you knowing how to describe what you do, other people aren't going to understand that either.
Why do you think that's a chronic problem? Like, do you think it's because they didn't do the ideal client research in the beginning, like we're talking about? Or do you think it's that they're not confident in themselves? Like, what do you think that thing is? Because I totally agree with you.
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination. I think it's, lack of, if they're brand new, they don't have really the confidence yet, right? And if they've just done a survey, they don't really have data. They don't have enough data, and they haven't tried, with talking to people about it, so that it becomes really watery, like watered down. And then it's just an idea based off of an avatar, which is a fake person. If you've ever heard of ideal client work, usually people just create an avatar.
Yeah.
And you're imagining in your head this person, which could be very different from what a real person is like. And so going back to the beginning where we talked about using your business as like a way to connect with people, it's the same thing. We need to connect with real people, which is a real person through market research, not a fake avatar.
I love that. I also think, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, I think that like sometimes that whole exercise is more confusing than not, because you're like, where do they shop? What do they do on the weekends? Right? And like for me, I know like a long time ago at the beginning of my business, when I looked at all that, I was like, how do I combine where they shop? Like, that's not even really relevant to what I do, right? So I think like you have to create an avatar perhaps based on like what you want to help your clients with, what like you actually care about. Like, you don't need to know what they do on Friday night if that has like zero to do with the skills or the business that you're building. I don't know if you think that's true or not, but that's like sort of my take. Like, all my clients do different things on Friday nights. Not really relevant, right?
Yes. I think the only time it really is relevant is if you're running Facebook ads and you get like some weird combination of, different interests all of a sudden. I think like really the only time you need to go into that much depth that's not related is through Facebook ads. And in my intensive, I have this whole section that is like that. And I tell them, if you're going to do Facebook ads, come back here. But if you're literally just starting in your business, don't start with Facebook ads, because it's really difficult to start with Facebook ads when you're first starting, unless you have experience.
Definitely. That makes sense. So kind of like build your ideal client as you go too, right? Like, don't feel like you have to have it completely built out to start. You do have to like have your market research. We want you to have a magnetic message. We want you to have understanding, but like it will tweak and evolve and change with you constantly. So don't feel like you have to tick all these like check boxes, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So if someone has like done these things, right, they've created their magnetic message and put it out, what is their next step?
So the next step is to start content creation. And validate.
I'm so sorry. I probably should have asked you to give us an example of the I help benefit, because, you know, if somebody's new starting that, maybe they haven't even done that yet. So I think I rushed you a little. Let's go back to that for a second.
Sure. So I'll just use mine as an example. So I free moms from the 9-to-5 struggle by helping them build profitable businesses through marketing strategy that attracts clients. So that's the benefit. Ditching tech overwhelm and getting their first paying clients.
Boom.
So like twice already, I've talked about getting clients, which is essentially what I help my clients with. And then, you know, the tech overwhelm, which is very unique. Like most coaches don't talk about tech stuff, but I totally geek out on it. And so, yeah. So, and of course, like you help me with that a lot. You know, and that's why you need a coach. Like this is not something that you even see in yourself. Yeah. Like this tech part was something that I did not see in myself. And you're like, you built your website by yourself in a week. Like this is a strength.
Right? Yeah, like hi, that is not what most people do.
Yes.
It's funny. I think that you're totally right. And that's such a benefit. Like I feel like that's like half of my job. Sometimes I'm sure you feel like that too, but I was talking to a client earlier this week, and she is just so magnetic in person. Like if she goes to an in-person networking event, she just like signs people up. It's just the funniest thing. And like I have to remind her all the time, like, hi, that's not normal. Like I'm a huge introvert and I have a hard time at networking events. So like I could go next week and like that is not how that show would go down for me, right? But like same thing, like we have to remind them that there are such unique benefits that they have, right? So that's like kind of part of this piece too, is like how are you identifying those and then sharing them, right? So for her, it'd be like being a connector. For you, it was like you're fabulous at tech and like you're so good at like simplifying that, right?
Yeah. And I guess I'm patient with it too. Like, because most people would be like, go figure it out. Where I'm like, no, go find the button. It's like on the right bottom.
Yeah. Totally. You're like, let me show my screen to you. Like it's just right here, where a lot of coaches would be like, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm out. Right? Yep. Very cool. So yours has 3 benefits in it. You're like circling back to like profitable business, get your client, ditch this overwhelm, ditch your 9-to-5. You're like constantly showing them a benefit and like all the words you're using in your message.
Absolutely.
So now I'm going to put this message out there. Now what?
Oh, okay. So now this is where you get to actually validate it. Like we had first talked about how we're not going to ask them how much money they're going to spend, because the way that you can validate it is through getting your first client, which the best way to start doing that is through creating content and working on getting your first client. So for me, that comes out as, you know, creating content and getting visible and starting to build that momentum. And it does take time. Like this does not happen overnight for people. I've had clients who did really extremely well. Like I had Holly, she did it in 5 weeks, but that is like an exception to the rule. So again, like just getting out there and showing up every day, which you like teach us to do all the time. And you're a great example of that.
So. Thank you. And I like that you said the word momentum, right? Because like, I think, gosh, I say this all the time. I've probably said this on another masterclass. People are going to be like, shut up. But, you know, I had a mentor say this to me a long time ago and it's just stuck with me so much. So I try to say it every time I can, but it's like a pot boiling on the stove, right? Like a lot of entrepreneurs like watch the pot. And then they're like, I'm going to throw it out. They like ditch their plan. They ditch their message. They say this market research didn't work or whatever, right? And they throw the water out, but like it was just about to boil. Like it was just picking up the momentum, right? It was just getting to that point where it was about to boil over. And most people, and that's kind of what like separates some entrepreneurs out, is they're not like available to wait for the water to boil, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's where like a mentor can be like, you're doing good. Like, because I think sometimes too, like people end up focusing on what's not working because as entrepreneurs, we are problem solvers. Like that is what we're good at. And I find myself doing this with clients all the time. They're like, well, I don't have my first paying client. I'm like, you just got published on Huffington Post. You tripled your blog traffic. You have 9 discovery calls this week, right? Like,
like let's let this play out for a second, right?
Yeah.
You're so right. So what do you usually tell your clients about their magnetic message? Like how long do you want them to not pre-validate, but how long do you want them to like stick with validating it? Like, or before they're making tweaks to it?
At the very least, 90 days. At the very least.
Agreed. I think we start to see like the shifts around 60 and then to like fully give it an opportunity 90, but like really to fully give it an opportunity a really effing long time, right? Because you know, stuff evolves so much, but I definitely agree with you. Like, you know, changing your message every 30 days because you think it's not working is just a recipe for failure, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. What else do we need to know about that?
So with content creation, always tying it back to your message. Like so you didn't just create this for no reason.
Or for like that dinner party where someone might ask you.
Yes. But like every piece of content, tying it back to your message. And having that very clear, because like I see people that will start talking about health and fitness, and then that's all great and good, but like how is that related, right? Like you know, you're talking about birth and the birth process, but like how is that? Yes, it might be related to business because there's a lot of lessons, right? Like there's a lot of lessons, but you need to physically tie it with a nice bow for people. Like people don't get it unless you tie it back together.
Yeah, they like don't jump with you, right? Like
yes.
help them, like form the bridge for them. So give me an example of that. Like if you do a Facebook post or you write a blog post, like how do you typically tie back, or do you have like a way that you check in with yourself around that?
Yeah, so I think of it in 2 ways. Like I would think back to that person that I interviewed and be like, okay, would they love this? Is this really talking to them? And then of course, like that means that you're writing in first person. That means that you're just talking directly to the person in your post. And then even more importantly is, you know, are you tying it back to what you do? Because people need to be reminded over and over and over what you do. Otherwise, they won't know.
Yes, this is so good. And, you know, I would say, like, I think a lot of people think they're, like, saying it too much, right? Like, they're like, oh, but I just said that last week or yesterday or whatever. So, like, what is your advice around that? Like, keep changing it up, keep showing up and don't care. Like, what do you usually tell your clients when they say they've said it too much?
A few things. Number one,
you're like, I get super annoyed by this. No, I'm just kidding. But it's crazy.
Yeah, I do it too, right? Like I get annoyed with it too because I'm like always saying the same thing, I feel like. But there's a few things that happen. One, people need to hear your same thing multiple times. I think for an opt-in, and I recently did content around this because I was talking all about list building. And even for a free opt-in, people have to see it 7 to 8 times before they opt in. That's a free offer.
That's craziness, right? I mean, but it's a lot of permission, I would say, too. Because sometimes we think like, oh, somebody saw it once and they didn't want it. Like psychologically, that is not how we function as humans. We're not like, see it, get it always, right? We're like, see it on the 8th time and then finally warm up to it and decide it's for me, right?
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, well, maybe they were busy, right? Like maybe they were in the middle of walking somewhere and they couldn't do it or whatever, you know? So I think, you know, understanding that it's not always convenient the first time they see it. And number 2, they might not even see it, right? Like, so you might post it 8 times and think they've seen it 8 times. when most likely they have only seen it a couple of times.
Definitely. I think that's the other thing too, right? Is like things like social media, Facebook algorithms are changing. Like people see stuff less than you think they do. So like don't be afraid to like show up and say the thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so checking in with yourself, would my ideal client even want this content? Like, do I know that they would want to consume it? How am I tying it back to my message so that when they're consuming it, they're like reminded of what I do and what I help with? What else?
And I think just being yourself and like not being afraid of being you.
Woo!
I think that really holds people back a lot.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to be how other people are being online, and then they end up just looking like everyone else. Like, just be you. And like that's the part of the unique selling proposition where you just get to the permission to be you. Nobody else can be you like you. So just be you.
Definitely. So share with us like some examples of that. Like what does that look like in your content, in your business, you being, you know, fully yourself?
So like an example, I had said to you, like, I think a couple of weeks ago, I need to do something really huge for my birthday. Like, I want to have 7 days of birthday celebrations.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, I think it was Monday, I was like, I still don't have anything for my birthday. And then yesterday, it all came together, and I was like, well, it's my birthday, and it's another normal day. And that's how I've always viewed my birthday. And we celebrated already. And I felt really good about not doing anything because in my normal life, I wouldn't have done anything. So it just was really confirmation that I was being myself by just having it be a regular day.
Yeah, totally. And that like just because like other people have done birthday giveaways or whatever, like some people, you know, took it too far. Yeah, but like that's like if that doesn't fit you, that doesn't have to fit you, right? Like you don't have to be sitting there like 2 days before your birthday going like, oh shit, what am I gonna put together? You get to be like, this is just like where I'm at right now. This is what's authentic to me. This is how I live my life, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't mean like other people can't have a big celebration, right? Like there's people who have extravagant parties for their birthdays every year since like being a kid. Like my my nephews have like these huge birthday parties. And my kids, we have cake at the house.
Yeah.
So it's all about just being yourself, like how you would still be in real life.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's one example.
Yeah, and I think like another way you do that, like I know, and I think we both kind of accidentally do it, right? But like my dogs are always around, like when I'm like doing a video or this, like one is like laying next to me right now. She's probably gonna bark any second. Your kids are with you, right? They're like going kind of in and out. But like we don't have to hide that because that's like who we are as people. We don't have to like lock the dogs in another room or whatever. We get to like just, kind of like be who we are, right? Like be in our environment.
Yeah.
Love that. Cool. So, oh my gosh, your Venn diagram, right? So looking at those two things, doing your online research, doing your in-person market research, creating your magnetic message, and then creating content around that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Those are the 5. Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. So finding your ideal client, translating that into a message, validating that message, translating it into content, and then giving yourself a chance for it all to kind of work and come together, right?
Exactly.
Beautiful. Anything else you want to add to that? Any like last minute tips that you think anybody should know or that like we didn't cover?
Yeah, I feel like don't be afraid to make personal connections. Like just because you're starting an online biz, and I think this has been my underlying message all day, but like don't be afraid to say like, hey, let's hop on a phone call. Like, and you're not selling, right? Like, don't even think about like feeling like, oh my God, I need to get everybody on the phone so that I can sell. Just make real connections again, like with people over the phone. And so that you can, because you can just get so much more of this, of you, right? Like this whole, your dogs, your kids, your real life over the phone that you can't get out of a Facebook text message.
Yeah, definitely. One of my like business best friends or business besties or whatever her name's, Raina, her business is Raina and Co. And she does something that she calls like the social glue method. And that's how she's built her entire business, is like, she doesn't do a lot of like promoting or ads or whatever. Like she just gets on the phone with people. Like she just like she is social glue, right? Like she connects people, she talks to them one-on-one. And I think a lot of people don't think that translates into an online forum, right? They're like, oh, well, I could do that if I had an in-person business, but it doesn't work online. But like you're proof, my friend Raina is proof that it's the same shit, right?
Yeah.
Build that relationship however you choose to do that, in the many ways that you can choose to do that. Show up for the relationship, not just the sale, right?
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and in my group, like I've been just blown away by the support that I've gotten back, right? Like,
yes.
I mean, even like Jennifer the other day, she just like surprised me and she's like, I just love how Mariana's always there for me. And I was like, I didn't even consciously do anything, but like she recently moved and I was catching up with her and like all of that. So like show up, right? Like just be genuinely interested in what people are doing.
Absolutely. Like, you know, the people in your group because they're people and you treat them like people, right? Not because you like go vomit information at them and then peace out, right? And that makes such a difference. And like, you don't know how much you're impacting them, right?
Exactly.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Okay. So if you guys have questions after this, like I said, most of our viewers have been replay viewers. I'm going to post a thread in the Facebook group. Mariana will answer any of your questions on there around this, and then tell them how they can get in touch with you, Mariana. Like, do you have, obviously you're super active in your Facebook group, so that would be great to share if you have like a great opt-in that you think would help them around this. I'd love for you to share that too. Definitely tell them your website, all of those good things.
Okay, awesome. So my, okay, where do I start? Okay, my group
offer or like opt-in website. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so my group is Entrepreneurial Moms, and I'll just type them in here. And my website is marianacruiz.com. And an opt-in that you could get is the content challenge. I think that would be the next step after you've done all this work.
Absolutely. Like you've done the ideal client stuff, and now you're ready to put content out for them, right?
Yeah. And so that is at marianacruiz.com/content.
Very cool. I'll throw that in the Facebook group as well. So feel free to click there. Mariana put the link in here, and just let us know what questions you have, how you're creating your ideal client, where you've gotten stuck along the way, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Mariana, so much for being here. Happy birthday again. Thank you for sharing your time and your knowledge with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.